exactly. Okay, Pam, you are a very senior compliance person who's worked for a lot of large banks and mid-sized banks in the United States. Is that true?
Yes.
So
Yes.
one of the things, Pam, from my experience of knowing you like that is, unlike other compliance people that I know of, you're a customer serving compliance person. What I mean by that is that when I talk to a lot of compliance people, I don't need to name their banks. The compliance person is all about the process. But you, what's very unique about you is you're all about the customer experience, which is very refreshing for people like me to hear. Oh, compliance person was customer experience rather than about the rules. Hey, Pam, I want to ask you a few questions, if I may. Banking is the world
Please.
changing all the time. We saw SPV Bank fold. My personal opinion, in the coming year, we're going to see a lot of more banks around the world globally fold because of COVID. They got access to government money, they loan money or gifted money to us. I'll say loan money, if I can say that way, to a lot of people who can afford to pay these loans back. And my personal opinion is, it's not a fact, it's an opinion that happens, a lot of them will unfold. Can you tell my audience, what's the role of compliance? What do compliance people like you do in banks, just so they can appreciate your role and function?
Compliance is all about transparency. I mean, if someone's talking to a customer, are they sending the message, this is what a product does, these are the rules, you have to do this, you can't do this? Does the customer understand that there is risk involved? Do they know when they're going to make a deposit, when they're going to make a withdrawal, the rules about a money market? You have to wait 30 days. You can only do so many transactions within 30 days. They know the ins and outs. Do they know what they can do and what they can't do? Compliance is about protecting the bank as well as the customer. Again, though, when you're dealing with the front line, and actually I'm making sure that the front line is doing their jobs because they're interacting with the customers, are they given the full message? They're talking to the client, they're not talking above, they're not talking below. Again, though, the whole thing about banking is you want the customer to come back in the door. So I'm helping the front line do that job. Again, regulations come out from the FDIC, or if they're dealing with stock products, FINRA or NASDA, do they know exactly what is involved?
Pam, there's a lot of surprises in the world of banking, some that people are not aware of. So in some countries like Iran, I don't know what the population of Iran is, but I know a few years ago, 70% of the population was under the age of 18. In a lot of countries that are aging, a lot of the people are now getting to be over the age of 65. I know in some pockets around the world, for sure, a big portion of a tribe, I'll say, within pockets in different countries are over the age of 65. What's surprising to a lot of these clients is they can go open up an account if they're under the age of 18, or they can go and open up an account if they're over the age of 65. Can you talk a little bit about it, and why do you, within compliance, don't allow your banks, the ones that you consult, work with people under the age of 18? Or why don't you allow the bank to work with people over the age of 65? And I'll throw a third question in. If as a bank CEO, I make money when I go and provide banking products and services to people that don't have banking products and services. That makes sense, right? In the world of banking, it is called the unbanked population. The unbanked population is a lot bigger than people are banking. Tell me a little bit about compliance. Why didn't you let me talk to people under the age of 18? Why don't you let me talk to people over the age of 65? And what are the challenges you're going to present to me if I want to talk to the unbanked population?
Well, good questions. I mean, under 18, legally, they're not considered adults. To open up a bank account or do some trading products or other banking products, you need to be of legal age. And that's here in the United States, 18 is the uniform standard. Over 65, a person may have diminished capacities. So you don't want to take that chance. You don't want to seem like you're taking advantage of them. So over 65, unless they have like a representative with them, you don't want to sell them. You again don't want any, I guess, tarnished reputation. You're selling them a banking product or account, and they're not fully able to make a correct judgment. Again, though, there's people who will not open a bank account. That's why there's like municipal credit unions. Again, though, I think it's all about the approach. You want somebody who will trust you. Again, this is their life, their savings accounts. You
Sure.
want somebody who feels comfortable walking into a bank to do a transaction.
Sure.
So if they don't have any accounts there, you want to make them feel welcome. You want
Sure.
to talk to them. That's the whole thing. Again, though, you don't want to get them in and out the door. Some people like getting in and out the door. That's why banking on mobile apps or iPads is becoming the newest trend. But again, anybody can do it. And so we're kind of catering to the whole population. Again, speed is the name of the game.
So I know a lot of banks after COVID were forced to, during COVID, a lot of banks were forced to better work with something called digital transformation and digitally serve their customers. Banks that didn't have a mobile app invented a mobile app out of force. Banks that had a mobile app, but excuse my language, it was a shitty mobile app, had to enhance their mobile app like that. How does digital technologies impact compliance from your perspective?
I think, again, though, who you're catering to. Again, I did an assignment with a client months ago. They're under the American Disabilities Act. You have to cater to everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody should be entitled to use a mobile app. Can you make it easy to understand? Can you manipulate it? Can you show where the log off is? But do they have the IT behind it? So it is password protected, encrypted, make it easier. Again, a bank of mine personally merged with a prior bank, and so they came out with a whole new platform. They made it so complicated, it kind of turned off people. Customers walked out the door and kept on walking. So again, you have to make it easier, you have to make it user-friendly, and you have to make it live. So if you're transferring from like your checking account to your savings account, it should take 30 seconds, a minute. If it takes longer than that, again, you're having issues. You have to make it user-friendly. You have to be able to kind of navigate around the website and create transactions.
Pam, I want to ask you some questions that's outside of your domain of experience and expertise, if I may. And I'm doing it as a test for just so I can help my audience, if I may. So first
Please.
of all, I fall into an industry called alternative funding. That's why our name is All Funds Global. And alternative funding is for businesses that need funding far beyond what their banks are giving them. So real estate, last week we signed up 2 real estate developers. And what's happening with real estate around the world, one of them was a Netherlands client, the other one was a North American client. They're real estate developers for years. And their challenge is that now when they go to the bank, in the past it was put 20% down, the bank will finance the 80%. Now the bank's saying, no, put 40% down, not 20%. That's a massive difference to a business plan. Then the price of real estate around the world is going down, and interest rates around the world on banks going up. So in both cases, trend was their investors were walking away saying this doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense now, but the developer has signed a contract. So the developer's on the hook for deliver the stuff. That's when they call our firm and say, can you help us with alternative funding sources like that? So one source of the 6,000 ways we can help them is something called letters of credit. The problem with stamp letters of credit, documents of credit, bank guarantees is that a lot of our clients don't come from the banking world. A lot of the information they get is junk information from what I call our joker brokers. I'm going to give you some terms that joker brokers use as somebody who's worked in banks and compliance, because if the term doesn't make sense, I'll bet you're the first person who's going to say it doesn't make sense. The first one I'm going to claim, and I want you to verify if this is true or not, is something called DOA. It stands for Deed of Agreement. I claim anybody who ever sees a contract with the word DOA, Deed of Agreement, is dealing with somebody who's a fraudulent person. Somebody who's in compliance, works with mid-sized banks, large banks, and credit department, and so on. Have you ever heard of the term called DOA?
Actually, no. But
Perfect.
no.
That's the right answer, because all the legitimate providers I know will never put something called DOA, and I'm glad you confirmed that. Now I want to give you another one. I hear this a lot. My clients will call and say, "Hey, Taimour, there's a private investment program going on with some bank. If you have the contract, let's show you the contract." Listen to this. The contract says that the provider will ping the money in my bank account. When I hear or see the word ping, I know that the contract is fraudulent. And there's various ways the fraud person is trying to make money out of fraudulent contracts. As somebody who's in a compliance department of the big banks and small banks, have you ever heard of the term ping? Or know of any?
No.
Okay, good. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Cool. Okay, good. So I'm confirming the bullshit that's out there, because a lot of my clients talk to 30, 60 joker brokers. Out of the 30 to 60 joker brokers, 5 of them will have a similar story, and the client buys into that religion. Oh, this is a paying account. Look, it's a paying account. I can't lose money. But just as they're speaking, I'm like, bullshit, 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 bullshit. And the guy's convinced. So, okay, good. Awesome, good. Third one. I'm gonna tell you. First of all, I have a ebook that I'm planning to publish on bank settlements and clearinghouses. So I'm going to tell you a statement. As somebody who has worked in banks, I want you to tell me whether my statement is true or false. All banks, or I should say all major banks around the world, settlement date is Friday. Can you confirm whether my statement is true or false?
I would say false.
Okay, good. So I'll tell you it's true. So all the banks that I know of, at least because I get paid when money goes out to my clients. So I know when I need to know when payout data is going to be, because that's payday for me and my staff. So all banks that I work with, all the top 30 banks, legitimate banks or legitimate providers, settlement date is always Fridays. And it's interesting because I always say that's true, and you're saying that's false, and I can bring anyway. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's the one thing you and me disagree on. But so you're saying that the bank's settlement dates are different on Fridays?
Depends on what you're actually settling.
Money. Stamp matters of credit, documents of credit. So we have clients who will say, "Hey, I want to get a lot of credit." So I'll give you an example. I have a client, I won't mention his name. He's a real estate developer in Washington, D.C. He's doing a project in Africa. It's a real estate project. He needs to get a lot of credit. The reason that American banks wouldn't touch the project is because the project is in Africa. If they were going to give him a loan, how can they go and collect the collateral if the collateral is in Africa? So you can't do that with an American bank. The reason he can't get a lot of credit from an African bank is because he's new. His company is new. In Africa, they don't know him. So like, how would they give him a lot of credit? So markets or customers like that, when they have those problems, they reach out to my firm to say, "Can you help me solve my problem?" And so we get paid a lot of money to solve that problem. So my claim to fame, not claim to fame, it's a settlement is Friday for all the banks. That means when a bank sends an instrument, when I get a bank, let's say Deutsche Bank, to send an instrument to a different bank, let's say African bank, the African bank can get a lot of credit. The African bank can tell my client, "Okay, I'm going to give you a loan because we got this instrument," or "I'm going to pay you money for getting this instrument." And that's why I say, and I stand by my facts, or at least my opinion, or my story, my experience, however you want to call it, settlement dates is always Fridays for banking instruments. Can you tell me if I'm lying
Okay,
or if I'm true? Would you say
I'm gonna say
I'm lying
no.
or I'm truthful?
I'm gonna say you're truthful,
Thank you.
but honestly, I know about US again though. As a compliance person, I don't know everything. I learn from everybody every day. And again, though, with this now being a global banking industry, we all have to take into matters where we're banking with and
Nice.
fully understand.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for confirming the things that I claim that I know, or at least our experience for sure. Pam, one last question I do want to ask you. I can, and please tell me anything that I'm going to tell you that you feel is incorrect, please correct me. My experience is that banking is done very differently from one country to another country to another country. In El Salvador, as example, I can tell you they have a central bank. In Panama, I can tell you they do not have a central bank. They have one big national bank, but it's not a central bank. And so how you do banking in one jurisdiction is different to another jurisdiction, to another jurisdiction, to another jurisdiction. Would you say that's true?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
It is.
Would you be willing to say, would you be willing to agree with me when I make a statement that says when you approach these banks, although each bank is different and the rules are different, the one religion they all subscribe to, independent of race, culture, whatever, is whatever you do, do not put me as my bank on the front page of the newspaper. Therefore, how
You are
you
100%.
package something, pitch me something, has to make sure I as a bank don't be on the front page of a newspaper, whether I'm a Brazilian bank, Canadian bank, Indian bank, I don't care what, Timbuktu bank. Would you say that's true?
You're 100% correct. It is
Awesome.
true.
Awesome, good. So Pam, you have decades of experience working in banks, mid-size and large, on the inside and compliance. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be willing to consider that some of my clients would benefit a lot by hiring you, or even viewers on my YouTube channel, whatever people follow our content from? Would you consider that there's a lot of benefit from them hiring you from an inside perspective to help them understand the intriguings and the complexities of banking worldwide when they want to get into a transaction?
Yes. And again, I think my experience would serve them well. Again,
Awesome.
by listening to the rules that for the country or the organization, or they're like FDIC, or if they're FINRA or SEC, understanding what the rule is. At the end of the day, you want a customer knowing that one, their money's protected, they're
Yeah.
being helped, and
Yeah.
they're walking out the door with a smile on their face.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, Pam, two questions. Is it true that you and me don't have any commercial agreements, arrangements, so I don't benefit from bringing clients to you? Would you say that's true? And by the way, that's the way I think I prefer
Yes.
to. Okay, wait. So there's no commercial
Yes.
arrangements for you. So I'm genuinely, authentically believe in your services, and that's why I'm promoting you, but no hidden agreements with you and me. My last question, key question: how do people get hold of you?
Please contact me via LinkedIn. My picture's there, my nice smiling face. And hey, I would love to help your organization better its compliance and actually learn from you. I think we all teach each other and educate each other. Let's get out there and educate and make a good product.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pam.